Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. Now today we'll be discussing DC and Netflix's latest show. It's called The Sandman, so let's get into it. Now before we get started, for those of you that haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, notification bell so that you don't miss a video. I am going to be trying to post more regularly now, so hit that subscribe button. Appreciate all the support here. So let's get started with The Sandman. Now I'll be honest, I've never heard of this character itself. I know it's based on the graphic novels and it's a DC property here, but for myself, I've never read the graphic comics when it comes to The Sandman, so this was sort of like a fresh canvas for me, a fresh slate going into the show, learning about the character, learning about this property essentially. So my thoughts, I'll start off with like episode per episode. So this is going to be like a spoiler review, so if you haven't seen the show, go watch the show first and then come back, let me know what your thoughts are about this. But I'll sort of break down episode per episode just to like give like an overall arching view of it essentially. So the way with the show starts, I'll be honest, with the first two episodes, it's sort of like a slow build up, very slow pacing. When it comes to like the first episode, it introduces the Sandman itself, him being kidnapped by the human race essentially and being locked in there for hundreds of years, and like not much happens in the episode itself. It kind of just like drags through centuries in terms of human evolution and like the impact it made when he got kidnapped, in terms of like people being asleep and not waking up or not dreaming essentially. So this dream god, which is who he is essentially, is getting kidnapped, but then like it's sort of like a really slow opening and a slow burn type of episode. And it's similar when it comes to episode 2, because once he does escape after hundreds of years, when he does get captured, he has a bag of sand, he has this gem ruby, and he has this helmet that gets taken from him, and then that gets stolen from a different person throughout the episode. So then in the second episode, once he does escape, it's kind of him like trying to capture the first part of his items, but nothing really happens in the first two episodes that really like catch your eye and are like memorable, for me anyways. Like I didn't see much of like a progression in the story. Like it was just very slower kind of pace. So my initial reactions was like, okay, this is going to be one of those slow types of shows. Maybe a lot will happen towards the latter end of the series, but then it's just going to be building up very slowly. So the first two episodes weren't that great for me, to be honest. Like it didn't really capture me or engage me, but I kind of like pushed through because I had a feeling this was going to be a good show. But the expectation I will give to people that haven't seen the show is that it will be very slow for the first couple of episodes there. Now then, once it comes to like episode 3, I thought that was like it's like kind of like night and day when it comes to the first two and then the third episode, because I thoroughly enjoyed the third episode. It was very enjoyable. You have him meeting up with this Constantine character who is played by Jenna Coleman, who for me, I recognize her because I've seen her in Doctor Who playing Clara from Doctor Who, and also she appeared in The Serpent on Netflix itself. So I'm familiar with her and her work, and I honestly thought she did a tremendous role in this episode. She's sort of like an exorcist, taking demons straight back to hell. So her character was really enjoyable. I liked how she played off with the dream god, and it came across really genuine and really entertaining, I would say. And then when he had to travel to hell itself, meeting Lucifer and battling with Lucifer, and the sort of like battle scene, because it wasn't essentially a battle scene, it was them saying like what they are to fight, like I am a wolf, and I am a snake, and I am hope, and like all of that. It was a unique concept, but it was fresh and it was entertaining. And I loved like the whole scene when they were in hell, all the scenes with Lucifer. So episode 3 was definitely a step up compared to episode 1 and 2, so it was a more enjoyable episode. It was more enjoyable to watch the show. So I definitely think that it was like it's night and day, I would say, definitely, when it comes to first 2 versus episode 3. And then you are introducing the character of the Corinthian, who's got like teeth for eyes, and is sort of killing people and taking their eyeballs as like sort of like a trophy. You have his character being slowly introduced. You have the character John, played by, if you've watched the Harry Potter movies, you recognize him as Lupin. So he's starting to be introduced, kind of like this. He was the son of the original person that kidnapped the dream god. So he is like slowly being introduced, kind of like being a madman because of his mother, because she was the one that originally stole the 3 items from the Dream Master, like the bag of sand, the jewel, and the mask. So you see what she had to put him through, and so you're building like that little character arc and the characteristics of what he has, because you find out that he has the jewel, he has this ruby, and he's like shaping it to like how he likes. So you've got that introduction as well. So the 3rd episode, you're like building that up, and then so once you bring in the 4th episode, which I apologize about, I got the hell scenes modeled up with episode 3 and episode 4. So everything from the hell scenes with Lucifer was actually in episode 4, which is what I really found entertaining in it. So, but then you have like these scenes with John, who eventually escaped like where he was, where his mother put him in, and you have him sort of like testing this person that this mother who is like picked him up, sort of driving him around to like his location, and you kind of like sense like what he is like looking to do, reshape the world so that there's no more lies. So you have these really great scenes with him, again, not like incredible actions or anything like that when it comes to his types of scenes, but you feel like where he's coming from. You understand like his whole life has been built on like lies from his mother, so he wants to reshape the world to remove that, essentially. So the way he was being demonstrated and portrayed, I really enjoyed that. And you have like the background scenes with the Dream Master. You have Lucine as well, in like as basically as the dream god's assistant, and like them trying to like reshape and rebuild the world because it's been so damaged, because he's been gone, like the Dream Master's been gone for so long. So these little like slow builds up and step by steps of everything. And also the Raven Matthew, I thought he's entertaining. He's voiced by Patan Oswait. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing him, but I thought he was very entertaining. But so then you come on to episode 5, and I thought episode 5 was very unique. It didn't have too much plot when it comes to like what was going on in the storyline of the actual show, the Sandman show, the Dream God, the Corinthian, all that kind of stuff. It solely focused on John and a diner, and the characters in the diner. You see like the difference between when you go about day to day, you're being nice to people, you sort of like it's sort of like the consensus of like when you're in a diner, for example, you're nice to the waiter or the waitress. When you're like talking to like these strangers, you're polite to them, but then they have this unique twist of it reveals them being true to their nature, or what they're really thinking, what they really want to say. So like John manipulates that. So it was a very unique episode, and kind of like a intriguing, fresh episode. I thought it was very weird like watching it, but then like as you get through and you see like what they're doing, and they eventually start like, there's 6 of them, and so there's different dynamics and different like characteristics, and then you see like everybody's essentially the same, and they all start sleeping with each other. Like you have the waitress and the girl start making out, you have the boy being interviewed sleeping with like the woman who's married, you have the chef, and then the man who's married like being intimate with each other. So it was just very unique and weird. And then eventually they started they started murdering not each other, but they started like murdering themselves because of like John's manipulation. So it's like sort of like a out of body episode, and it was very unique, but it was enjoyable. So like you have episode 1 and 2 slow pace, and then you've got 3 and 4, which is great entertaining scenes, and then episode 5 is where it kind of like just takes a break from everything and has this very unique kind of episode. But it was a good one, I would honestly say. And so then you got episode 6, and episode 6 is honestly one of my favorite episodes of the whole show, because you have Dream's sister Death, and what she has to go through, like in terms of meeting the people that she has to take away. So like it was a powerful episode. You have her, there's this old man that they go to, and she tells him that it's time, and she takes him to the afterlife. You have a man who was on his honeymoon who basically drowned. She takes him to the afterlife, but her interactions and like her explaining to Dream like how she does this and why she does it, and like how easy it's become over the years. It was just very, very great writing, great scenes with her. That's what I genuinely loved about it. And then you have also this other portion of the episode when you've got Dream meeting up with this man in the 1500s named Hobbs, who it kind of like starts out as like a joke where he basically tells his friends, I'm never gonna die, and so Death and Dream basically grant the wish, and so the Sandman, the dream god, basically decides that he's going to meet up with this Hobbs guy every 100 years at the same location at the same pub, and they show you like from the 1500s, 1600s, 1700s, and like what was great about it was this Hobbs character. So you see him going through the ups of like being rich and powerful to the lows of like losing his wife and kid and like losing money, and like it was entertaining. And what was great was that he kept telling Dream that he doesn't want to die, he still wants to live. And then you sort of build it where it's like they're turning it into a friendship, and how Dream finds that so insulting, but then once they get to like the 21st century, once they get to like the 2000s and 10s, like they become friends. So Dream finally basically admits that they are friends, and that he enjoys the presence of Hobbs, and then they get sitting down every 100 years in a pub, drinking, talking, catching up. It was very great to watch. It was the whole episode itself, like the death scenes, and then this every 100 years. It was great entertainment, great episode TV, and that's what I liked so much about this show. It's not like those typical, like, because when you think DC, you think of like Peacemaker, or you think of like superhero properties, that kind of stuff. So this was a very unique and fresh take on like a DC property. So this is the prime example, and like I believe episode 6 is probably one of most people's favorite episode of this show because of like the powerful scenes that it had in it. And so then once you get to like episode 7 and episode 8, it's like takes on a different twist, because the conclusion to episode 5 was John's arc, and Dream like basically stopping him, taking the ruby back and putting everything back in its place when it comes to like John. So that kind of like finished there. And so then it starts off like with a new story arc when you've got this character called Rose and her brother. Like the Rose character is supposed to be the Vortex, and so it really heavily focuses now on the Corinthian and this character Vortex, who basically can like walk into people's dreams. She's powerful enough to even go into the dream god's like world basically. So they kind of like are focusing now on that and like what that means, because as the episodes progress, you have Vortex, Rose character looking for her brother as they were separated when they were kids, and then you have the Corinthian focusing on trying to gather more followers, because these people who are, I'm guessing, like serial killers, they going to a convention every year, want the Corinthian to be their guest speaker. So he's trying to gather this cult following, but he also wants to capture the Vortex too. So it's like a very it takes like a U-turn essentially from like the first half of the show to like this, because now it solely focuses on this and the dream world, Lucine and everything that's going on with that. So episodes 7 and 8 are kind of like focusing heavy on like Vortex and the character story arc that she's going through, and like the brother, and setting all of that up. So as the Vortex gets more powerful, she's starting to break down the barriers, because her friend Light, I believe her name is, her husband died. So like she's having dreams of like building a house and getting pregnant with her dead husband in her dreams, and now she's pregnant in real life. So like these barriers are starting to break down, and to like everything that's happening in the dreams are starting to happen in real life because of Vortex and her getting more powerful. So once she eventually does like find her brother, so I enjoyed the convention scenes, like seeing all these different aspects of different killers and like what they do and what they go through. I thought was entertaining, especially with the kid, the fat one, chasing after kids, chasing after Rose's brother. I thought was very creepy, but it was entertaining. But once it gets to like episode 9 and 10, and you have like everything coming to its conclusion, I just found it very short, because like episode 10 was very short. I loved what they did with the dream god and how he confronted all the killers, telling them how, like, the speech he gave them when he sort of made them aware of like what they've done, and making them feel their guilt and remorse and like the consequence of that. Well, I found that very entertaining. And then the scenes between the Corinthian and the dream god, I found very entertaining and really intense. But I just wish there was more of that, because my problem is with this show, and it's sort of like a small nitpick, I would say, it's because the first half of the show was focusing on John and like the dream god getting all his things back. So then it didn't set up enough time with the Vortex and the Corinthian and all of that. So it didn't really flesh out that story arc a lot of the times. And so when you got to the finale being like 45-50 minutes just felt really, really short, and should have been longer. I felt like should have had more scenes with them. So that was kind of like a nitpick for me when it comes to that. But I thought the conclusion to the show was really amazing, and what they set up when it comes to like not the post-credit scenes, but you have basically the Vortex, because essentially the Vortex, the way they stopped it, if you've seen the show, as you know, like the Vortex, Rose's great-grandmother, was the reason she slept basically because of the dream god being captured in the 1600s. So she had to sleep for such a long time. So she was supposed to be the Vortex, but then because she slept for such a long time, her great-granddaughter became the Vortex. So that plot was very nice. And so eventually the way they figured it out is for Rose to live, she gave her power of the Vortex to her great-grandmother, because the dream god has to kill the Vortex. But then you find out that his sister, who was called Desire, was the one that set all of this up. And so you kind of see, like, if they are going to do a season 2, you see that most likely it's going to be Desire's character trying to like take down Dream's character. But then you also have a scene with Lucifer and in hell, them wanting to exact revenge on what happened in earlier episodes between the dream god. So you kind of feel like they're setting up more. So I hope that there is going to be season 2, because it's going to be really nice to see what they'll do with Desire and Lucifer versus the dream god, because it's entertaining. The show itself, as much of a slow build up and like some of the story arcs felt very short, the overall concept of the show I found very entertaining, very fresh and very unique. So I would definitely recommend it. It's definitely up there as a great show to watch, especially if you've never heard of the character. And from what I've read as well, is that like people that have read the graphic novels felt like they've stayed close to the novels itself, so it didn't go too much off the rails when it comes to that. So I would definitely recommend this, and if you haven't seen it, to go and watch it. If you have seen it, did you enjoy it? Let me know in the comment section down below. But for me, I definitely enjoyed it overall. It surprised me quite a bit, but I would recommend it. I would definitely say to watch it as well if you've never heard of the character, and if you have, definitely watch it as well, because it is a very entertaining show. And keep an eye out on episode 6, because it's definitely the best episode of the show so far. But this is my thoughts and my take on the show The Sandman, Netflix's show The Sandman. Let me know again in the comment section down below what you thought, if you've seen it, if you haven't seen it. Let me know down there below. And again, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you never miss out on a video. But again, this is YK Reviews. Thank you again, and peace.